Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan from Boredom Sated.
I'm Boris from Boredom Sated.
So, what we're going to do today is we're going to do another. We're doing a combination of an old build video and a new build video. We did not do this on purpose, but we ended up doing it. So, we wanted to do another archetype build and a combat archetype build because we really enjoyed doing the first one, and then there's so many options available to us.
Yes, definitely.
So what we decided to do was we did another one. We this time did not tell each other what class or archetype we decided to use, and we ended up choosing the same class but not the same archetype, and it does
Yes.
make a pretty big difference.
Yes.
And that's actually really fun because if you remember, well, if you watch some of our older ones, we did some build videos where we chose the same character but did completely different styles of build. So this is kind of the same idea. It's just we went with an archetype for the differences, and the archetype also made it so we probably chose a lot of different class abilities and class feats as well.
Right. So let's just because it is a combat build, let's describe what the ultimate effect of these builds are, and then start with our description of how we got there. So first, I went the class since Jonathan pretty much stated the base class we both picked is the Investigator, and the benefit of the strategic strike is what I was going for, and adding the number of dice to the ultimate strike for me. And I chose, because of that desire, I chose the Investigator, and my archetype was the martial artist.
Now, if you know anything about Boris, you know that martial artist is basically his favorite thing to do. There's a reason why he loves playing monks so much. The martial arts movies, the cheesy ones, the good ones, the mixture of the both. This is one of his favorite things.
Pretty much just the cheesy ones.
The archetype itself is definitely one that I expected to come from him at some point. I just didn't completely expect it to go along with Investigator, but if you think about it, Investigator does go along with martial artist very well. If you remember back to when we described the Investigator class, especially with the changes made for the real book, it does feel like you're playing Sherlock Holmes. And if you remember anything about the Robert Downey Jr. version of the Sherlock Holmes movies, you definitely have that martial artist combat guy feel to it, as well as the big brain.
Yes, and even though I did utilize sort of that idea as well as a little bit of Batman in the whole creation, so I do have not only combat feats, but also that unique investigator Sherlock Holmes-ish type, Batman type of feats as well, and the full build out. It actually, I think it turned out really good, really good. I think he's definitely at a 20th level equivalent to a Sherlock Holmes characters, and because Batman is a superhero and far superior than Sherlock Holmes, probably a year 3 or 4 Batman type character.
Yeah, that's fair. So my build, I wanted to try something a little different, and so I wanted to make. I tried out a little. I looked at a couple of them. I looked at Dragon Disciple and said, "Wow, this is actually not good." You're better as a barbarian going straight barbarian dragon, and you're better as a sorcerer going straight dragon sorcerer, which was really disappointing to me. So I looked at some other ones, and I ended up choosing Poisoner. And originally I was going to go Rogue Poisoner because you can take the Rogue feats versions of it, and then you can go into the Alchemist Poisoner feats to be able to supplement it. But I decided that was still a little boring because you can do 90% of it just by going Rogue. So you don't need to have it be the Alchemist for it. You don't need it. Although it makes it a little bit better, it doesn't make it enough better for my liking. So I decided to go with Investigator because that way I can use no weakness. I can use I can use Strategic Strike to make it so that I know if I'm going to hit, so I never have to worry about the poison use critically missing, so I never have to worry about that. And I can also use a couple of other abilities to make it so that I can guarantee having my effect be there. So the problem with this build basically comes from the fact that you're making high-level monsters make fortitude saves, and high-level monsters are very good at making fortitude saves. So there's a very good chance the poison's never going to work. However, if you do end up facing a wizard or something like that, the poison use can be incredibly awesome. Right. So that is why I went with Investigator-Poisoner, and for my I wanted to go with another one with being a little bit different with my race, so I decided to go Rat Folk. That way I can be a rat folk. I'm a sewer rat, so I get bonuses versus poisons and diseases and things like that. However, to speed up this video, we are not going to really talk about our other feats, like skill feats, especially with Investigator. You get a skill feat every level, so we're not going to go over that. You can go whichever way you want with it, but realize, of course, for my build, you need to go with crafting. You need to go with all of the knowledge skills.
Right. And for mine, I went with a human because at first level it gave you the all these heritage versatility.
Same reason why everyone goes to human.
Yeah. Pretty much gave me the choice of all the first level investigator feat that really makes the Sherlock Holmes Batman type character.
Oh yeah. Then the thing about Investigator is the strongest level for feats with Investigator is 1. The first level feats, there's like 4 first level feats that are all really good. I was fighting between taking 3 different first level feats and ended up choosing the one I chose.
Yes.
So let's get straight into it. The first level feat I chose was No Weakness. The No Weakness feat basically a recall knowledge check on the creature, and if I make a critical success on the recall knowledge, I get a +1 to my attack rolls, and I can tell one friend that about the weakness, and they get a +1 on their attack roll as well.
So for me, I went with the real feat. I went with Underworld Investigator, but
which I'm
because
a fan of.
Yes, but my methodology empiricism gave me the That's Odd feat, also the first level, and then the Ancestor feat gave me Flexible Studies.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Flexible Studies because you're going to have every skill by a certain point, so I don't really entirely understand why you chose Flexible Studies.
It gives you the bonus to the recalls.
Yeah, but you're gonna get it anyway. I mean, it's fair. Different builds for different people.
Yeah.
So obviously for my my original choice, I went with it Alchemical Sciences. The reason for this is because I'm going to be a poisoner, so I'm going to eventually go into being able to craft poisons. I went into the Alchemical Sciences. That way I can craft cures to the poisons if I need to. I can craft healing, and I can craft alchemical tools. And the alchemical tools are really cool. So at second level, because obviously I'm sure both of us took the dedication.
Yes, I took the dedication.
So I took Poisoner dedication. He took Martial Artist dedication. Do you want to describe what your dedication does?
Yes. So you become trained with your fists. They go they just like the monk. They, instead of doing 1d4, they now do 1d6. You don't take the -2 circumstance penalties for making them lethal attacks, and whenever you gain a class feature that grants you expert or greater proficiency in certain weapons, you also gain the proficiency rank in all unarmed attacks.
So I took Poisoner dedication. It gets me the basic alchemical benefits. Now, you have to be very careful with the difference between the basic alchemical benefits in Alchemist, Poisoner, and Investigator. Because Investigator doesn't get as many as Alchemist, and Poisoner doesn't get as many as Alchemist. So I believe I still have to be very careful as to how many total things I can actually create. And I need to read the rules again for that because I honestly just remembered that that was going to be a problem. But basically, it makes it so I can create batches and infused reagents, but I can only use it to create poison. And that's the main. But and the one thing about that is it also says that it does not increase the level that I can create things at for that on its own. So I cannot automatically for free craft higher than level 1 poisons with the basic dedication.
Yep. So I assume we'll skip level 3 because there's no class feat.
Yeah, we're just going to go with every even level at this point.
Yeah. So at level 4, I took Detective Readiness, just because I was going with that theme of being the detective.
Yeah, I went with Alchemical Readiness, Discoveries. So that makes it so that I can learn more alchemical abilities every level, and as I am better at crafting, I learn more alchemical abilities as well. Again, I will, at some point, if I need to, I will read through the alchemical rules for multi-classing and things, because I know they put that in this book, and see if this will affect my build, because it might make it so I have to change from the alchemical build, because if I can't both make my elixirs and make my poisons, because I have a maximum number of things I can create and it's distinctly less, it will affect my build massively. It shouldn't change it, but I'm not sure because I know that they don't want you to be able to create more things than, like if you go alchemist and then go poisoner, they don't want you to be able to create enormous numbers of things.
Right. Yep. That makes sense because they really want that benefit to still go to the alchemist as a class.
Exactly.
Yeah. So at 6th level, I took the archetype, an archetype feat called Follow Up Strike, which I thought was very beneficial because if my last action was a miss, I can use an action, add the same multi-attack level. So if it's my first attack, I can use my action and still get to reroll as if it's my first attack.
Yeah, which is quite nice. At 6th level, I took Poison Weapon, which allows me to, as a single action, coat my weapon with a poison, or I can put a basic D4 damage poison on there.
Yep.
It's a rogue feat that you can take at level 4, but for Poisoner, it's available at level 6.
Right. At 8th level, I took again the Archetype Martial Artist Grievance Blow, which for 2 actions I now can add more dice to my attack. So at actually it gives you 2 dice, and then at 18th it gives you an extra dice to 3 dice. And if you have your magical wraps that assuming at 18th level you have the highest wraps, that could give you a bonus of 6 dice for 2 attacks. Yes.
My 8th level is called Expert Poisoner. Expert Poisoner makes it so that my Expert Poisoner is what makes it so that you can create higher level poisons using the poison crafting. This is incredibly important because it makes it so that I can now craft my level -3 in level of poisons instead of just level 1 poisons.
Right. So at level 10, I continued with the detective theme, but took a feat that does help me, and I did take just one more thing, which lets me, if I didn't critical fail, but just failed a feint, a request, or demoralize, as well as didn't critically fail on checks to detect lie, gather information, make an impression, or corroise. In that case, for an action, I can re-roll the effect, and it doesn't count as the failure for that thing. Now, the other reason I took that is because I did go with intimidation, and I do then become legendary intimidator, and the demoralize check lets me re-roll to try to intimidate somebody to death, because it is a demoralization roll.
Yeah, the intimidate to death thing is still almost never going to happen. It's trying to just make you run away.
But it's
I know.
It's just a fun role-playing effect.
At level 10, I get Pinpoint Poisoner. Pinpoint Poisoner can be very useful, or it might not be, depending on how you've set it up. Because if you have found a way to make it so they are flat-footed when you're attacking when you're making your attack and you poison them, then they get the -2 penalty on their saving throw for the poison as well. But it is very specific in saying that this only works if they are flat-footed when you're going to be making the attack. So it's hit or miss as to whether it's actually that useful or not. But I thought that it would be fun to try at the very least.
Yes. At level 12, I took Foresee Danger. Now, the benefit here is, in my mind, was that, first of all, the benefit of it overall, but also with the Investigator becoming legendary in Perception, because Foresee Danger uses your DC Perception rather than your AC, and you do not get the penalties of if you are flat-footed or any others if you're using this. It really sort of improves your AC quite well against initial attacks of certain creatures.
I got you. So I just looked at Pinpoint Poisoner again, and it only works for inhaled poisons, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that's strange.
Why would you be able to pinpoint inhaled poisons with a flat foot? I don't know. So
it's a writing error.
I don't know. So at level 12, here's where I kind of get to the point where I'm just going back into Oracle feats, because the poison feats are kind of meh. Now, one thing that needs to be mentioned is that advanced poison weapon increases the basic poison from 1d4 to 2d4 and makes it so if you critically fail on the attack roll, then you won't ever actually lose the poison. And that's nice, but because of the fact that I plan on using this with the Investigator ability, which makes it so that I know whether I'm going to hit or miss because I'm making the attack roll and then choosing whether to use the attack roll or not, I'm never going to critically miss an attack, so I'm never going to need the benefit of advanced poison weapon. Because of that, most likely, if it is a typo, then I would leave my fates the way they are. If it's not, I would change the level 10 feat to advanced poison weapon. And either way, at level 12, I would take Foresee Danger. Foresee Danger allows me to allows me as a reaction to have someone attack me using my perception DC instead of my AC. So because at that point we will most very quickly be getting to a legendary perception check, and your DC would be 10 plus your perception check, my perception is probably going to be higher than my AC at that point.
Yes. Yep. So at level 14th, I went with another archetype. I went Path of Iron. Again, sort of going to that, what we've seen in the movies between Batman and Sherlock. So for use of all three of your actions, you can move and make all three of your attacks. You cannot target the same creature with all three of your attacks, but you can attack up to 3 different creatures while moving.
Yeah, the problem is with the Oracle, with the Investigator, you'll probably never actually use that ability because you can't use it with the Investigator ability.
Yeah. But it gives
fun
you.
To have.
Yeah, it's a fun.
You can't use the stratagem with it because
if you're attacking minions, it's not bad.
Yeah. So at 14, I went back and took a level 2 feat, because I didn't have anything better to do. So I took Shared Stratagem, which basically allows me to, if I use my devise a stratagem, I can give the benefit to a friendly.
Nice. Now we jump to 16th. At 16th, continuing with the detective, I grabbed Reconstruction of Scene, which lets me figure out what happened in a small area, such as a room, within the last 24 hours.
I took Didactic Strike because I wanted to do something with it, and it's if you have Shared Stratagem, Didactic Strike basically improves on it. It makes it so you can choose up to 10 allies to gain the bonus, and they actually get precision damage, which at that level means they get 2d6 additional precision damage on each of their attacks as well, and they count my enemy as flat-footed. Even though, interestingly enough, I don't, but I make it so it does for them.
Yep. At 18th, I grabbed Trickster's Ace, which gives you you can set up a trigger. If the trigger happens, you can have either a magical or a mundane effect happen. So really beneficial. You can set up a heal if you're hit to like 1 hit point or lower. To strike.
Sort of. It's really difficult to get that to work correctly, which is the reason why I did not like that feat very much. I, at that point, decided to go a little different. I went for the feat that will never, ever go off, just like yours will probably never, ever go off. Chemical Contagion. A creature within 30 feet critically fails its initial saving throw against the poison I created. If this happens, I can use it to make it so that the poison jumps to another enemy.
Right.
But they have to critically fail, and at that point, that basically means they've got to roll a 1, because at the level that we're talking about, any monster is probably going to need to roll about a 5 to pass my saving throws anyway. So I'm looking for a roll of a 1 here, followed by another monster rolling another 1.
Right. And then at 20th, finally, I took Everyone's a Suspect, because, hey, everyone is a suspect.
Amazingly enough, so did I.
Yes.
Because my build was not really built around the other one, although honestly I could go with the other one and it would work just as well. Either way, unlike a lot of the other classes, Investigator gets kind of interesting at higher level, doesn't really get really good or really strong. It just kind of gets more interesting, but not really like a lot of other classes get very powerful high level feats. The Investigator is not like that. Right. They have very powerful lower level feats. Yes. Anyway, Ratfolk does add to my build somewhat. Obviously, Investigator, you have a skill feat every single level. You get skill bonuses every single level, so you'll have multiple legendary class feat, multiple legendary skills. Your build is barely even half done, really, with the build that we've gone here. The Poisoner is very cool, but again, because of the way saving throws work for a lot of high-level monsters in Pathfinder, this build is really cool in concept, but probably won't really work that well in play.
Yeah. Mine, I think, is because it has the role-playing effect as well as the combat effect. It's not great, again, very strong key monsters, but the Investigator is not supposed to be fighting those anyway. But it can give you the benefit, because I will be rolling 12 dice, 13 dice for one attack, and because of the way the stratagem works,
14.
If I miss
14,
6.
14.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
4 plus 5 plus 5.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's even more. No, never mind. It doesn't. Yeah, it's a lot of dice. It gets to. I think it is the original 12 that you said. It's 4 and 4 plus 3 plus
It's
5.
7 plus 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And because of
and the thing is that you're underplaying yours because your build, you have to take 3 actions to make the one attack, but you know if you're going to hit because you get to use your intelligence modifier. We do
right,
get to master of our attacks, which is a big deal. So you're a master attacker. You do d6s, which is kind of the only real weak spot to it, but you do an enormous amount of damage with that one attack, and you know whether you're going to hit or not basically with the initial roll. And you're using your intelligence modifier to attack instead of dexterity anyway.
right.
So that's actually the main problem that I have with the concept of using your fists with this build. But I'm pretty sure you can do that because, again, that's what Sherlock Holmes did. So I think you're underplaying it. Your build will still work against high-level creatures. The problem with mine is that it relies on the idea that they'll at least think about failing the fortitude save.
Right.
And at high level, the monsters are not going to fail fortitude save.
I totally agree with you. I did underplay because I did pick some feat, continue to pick feats in line with the detective. But for sacrificing one of those feats, I can get a stance that either gives me D10s now or D12s for the dice.
Either way, it can get to be very powerful, and that's the idea. So the martial artist investigator does seem to work very well for combat purposes, and the poisoner sounds good in practice. The problem is that the way that monsters saves work in this game is the build is fundamentally flawed, but it's not the build's fault, it's the edition's fault.
Yes. So since I think we're done, please subscribe, please like, please tell us what you think about these builds with comments. Please tell your friends to subscribe because, I mean, if you're enjoying these videos, they should be enjoying these videos too. We would greatly appreciate it. And I'm Boris from Boredom Sated.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan from Boredom Sated, and thanks for sticking around. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.